Thank you again. Holy Spirit had me on the road. 70. 70 precedes the movement of Almighty God upon the face of the earth. Even when Jesus was walking. Study them scriptures closely with the number 70. So far, you see what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times I pointed out there's more of 70 that preceded the movement of God. He's flipping the scripts back and forth, as he said. But it's still called a pattern. Key word. That's how NASA proved God's word to be true. In other words, they was able to land on Mars because they studied the pattern of God. How can you hit a rock we call Mars 35 million miles away from a planet you moving and it's moving in total darkness? It's called studying the pattern of God. They knew where Mars would be at every year, at a certain time, at a certain place. Why? They studied the cycle, the pattern, just like the moon. They got it on your calendar telling you the phase of the moon. It's called a study of a pattern. Likewise, you study the pattern of God, you will find his what? Next movement in the pattern. God destroyed them. The 100-year pattern repeated with Noah, the 100-year ark, but God made it a spiritual ark. We call it the Holy Bible. We call it the New Testament. In particular, it took 100 years. The same 100 years. But God flipped the script. He made it spiritual. Noah's ark was physical. God's word is spiritual. You got the 70. When they finished it was 100 years. Now in 476, God passed judgment. We know that, and it's in the kids' biblical books today, or their school books. Rome destroyed in Jerusalem in 476, 600. We got the Muslims. Now watch God. Jesus said, I'm the beginning and the end. He started the last end of our era. First of all, we finish up with the 70. Now you understand this last 70. Because being Jesus and God is the same in name, Israel and Jerusalem. Likewise in character. Jesus got a promotion. In the Old Testament, he was moving throughout, spiritually wise, performing. He stood before the throne of God, if you study the scriptures. Job, the first chapter, tell you that. But now, the disciples and the apostles all said he sat next to the right hand of God. God promoted him to sit at the right hand of God. God's true enemy is not you, it's Satan. Remember Satan in the beginning wanted that throne? Look what God did. He gave it to his son before he destroyed Satan. Because he said, vengeance is mine. Now watch this last 100 years. The latter years. Remember Daniel prophesied in the latter days? All the apostles, all the disciples, all the prophets talked about the latter days. Well, the latter days are referred to the last 100 years. We have went past it. It started in the year 1900. Why 1900? Because we started making the car. God showed me. This just amazed me. Understanding God flipped the script throughout the scriptures. I go back to that on another tape. We created the car, mankind. Primary purpose, drive across the land. Noah built the ark. Primary purpose, to go across the water. A flip of the script. Real simple, but that's how God is. Daniel said the last kingdom shall be of iron. Likewise, the car was originally made of iron. Thank you. I'll get into this another tape.